So in my last video, you guys roasted me for calling myself frugal while not having the blinds shut during the winter time. So I'm shutting them for you. There's good reason. Seasonal affective disorder. Honestly, I like the sunlight. It makes me feel like I'm actually alive, but it's dark now. So I will close the blinds to save a little bit of energy. There we go. Now everybody's happy. So there are a lot of videos here on YouTube about how minimalism will help alleviate your anxiety by you physically decluttering your space, getting rid of belongings, refreshing and opening up your home, and just feeling a little bit less stressed by all the stuff that's lying around. And I've even made some of those videos in the past, but that is absolutely not what this video is about. In some of my past videos, I've spoken quite openly about my struggles with anxiety and generally just being a worrier and an overthinker, and it's true. I can ruminate about anything and everything to the point that I have lost more nights of sleep than I could ever care to count, and at times I've even made myself physically sick, and honestly, it's awful. In all fairness, some of the stuff that I worry about is quite serious and valid. Am I gonna make enough money to cover my bills this month? Did I lock the front door when I left the house this morning? Am I gonna die alone? And others are just downright stupid. I missed a spot while I was shaving my legs. But for the last little while, I've been trying to change the way I look at life by putting things into perspective, and minimalism has been an invaluable tool in helping me do that. At its core, minimalism is not about decluttering. It's not about interior design. It's not about saving money. All of those things are wonderful side effects, but they're not really the point. Minimalism is about priorities. It's about simplifying your life by removing the things that aren't important so you can focus on the things that are. We all know by now that if you get rid of the clothing items that you don't really like and never really wear, you can basically spend every day just wearing your favorite clothing. We also know that if we stop spending our money and time on things that are wasteful, we can instead spend them on things that bring us value. And in the exact same way, I've noticed that if we can learn to stop worrying about things that don't really matter, we can live way better lives. We can be happier, we can sleep better, we can have less stress, we can have less anxiety, and maybe even less gray hair and wrinkles. Maybe I'm wishing for miracles on that one. So, okay, how do we do this? That's the real question, right? For a very long time now, I have been fascinated with the idea of stoicism. That is, learning to stop caring about things that you can't change. And so lately, when I feel myself becoming stressed out about something, I ask myself a few questions. The very first question that I ask, and maybe one of the most important ones, is, do I actually care about this thing? This might seem almost too obvious, but if you don't care about something, why are you even stressing about it? It's kind of paradoxical, right? In one way, I care and I worry about pretty much everything, but when I really think about it, I don't care about most things. Like, I literally don't care.
I don't care.
There are very few things in life that are actually important, and most things are just kind of petty bullshit, for lack of better words. I think work drama is the perfect example of this. Often when I'm talking to friends or family, they will start venting to me about all of the day-to-day mundane intricacies of their job. They'll complain about the processes and procedures they have to follow, about their bitchy coworkers, about the insufferable customers, about how busy their time at work has been this week, about how bored they've been because they haven't been busy, etc., etc., etc. And to be completely fair, I'm often guilty of that too. I think it's very much in our nature. But I'm also notorious for saying, who cares? Work isn't real life. And I fully believe this, especially if you work for someone else, but even if you work for yourself. You get paid to show up and do whatever it is that you do. What happens between the time you punch in and the time you punch out shouldn't matter at all, because you're really only there for one reason, and it's important to remember that. You're there to get paid. If your boss is a dick, or your customers are rude, or your office is a dump, or the computer program that you have to use is slow and bogged down and frustrating, who cares? Just do your job, spend your 8 hours there, do whatever you gotta do, and then punch out and go home. Work isn't real life. Real life starts the moment you punch out and you leave. Work stress can't be real stress if work life isn't your real life. I also think that a lot of the things that we tend to worry about are really just ego-driven. We care so much about the way people perceive us, the opinions that they form about us, the judgments that they make. And honestly, do you really care what a stranger thinks about you? Because you shouldn't. So many of us are so caught up in trying to impress others that we often fail to stop and consider what we actually think. We want others to perceive us in a certain way. We want people to be impressed by how we look, how we speak, what we do for a living, how much money we have, what kind of car we drive. And honestly, I just don't care. The desire to be liked is so ingrained into our culture that it's almost automatic. Nobody really thinks about it, it's just how it is. But when we actually stop to think about those things, do we actually care? Of course, nobody wants to be universally disliked, but who are you actually living for? If the person next to you at a red light looks over and thinks your car's a total piece of crap and assumes that you're broke as a result of that, do you actually care? Because I sure don't. The second question that I ask is, will this matter tomorrow, or next week, or next year? For me, this has been the most powerful mindset shift, because if something isn't going to matter in an hour from now, or in a day from now, or in a week, or even in 5 years from now, then does it really matter at all? Is it really that important? Let's say, for example, I'm late for an appointment and I'm weaving in and out of traffic and I'm stressed and I'm just trying to get there. As a whole, I try not to be late. I try to be respectful of other people's time, but sometimes shit happens. And here's the thing, you're stressed in the moment, but once you get there, the appointment is gonna happen, it's gonna come to an end, and then it's gonna be over. And the stress that you're feeling right now will be completely irrelevant because it's gonna be a done deal. It's a done deal and it's over. If it's not gonna matter tomorrow, why should it matter right now? Did you wake up this morning thinking about that time where you had a flat tire 3 years ago? Or thinking about the time where your paycheck was a little bit short because you had to call in sick one day? Did you wake up thinking about the time that you spilt coffee on your favorite shirt and you were all upset about it? Probably not. Chances are quite likely that if you ever experienced any of those things or anything similar, you may have been really upset about it at the moment, you might have been really stressed when it happened, but you probably don't think about those things at all anymore. Things almost always get resolved one way or another, and we move on. So if the thing that has you stressed right now isn't going to matter tomorrow or next week or next year, it's time to declutter it from your brain so you can focus on the things that actually matter. I can only speak for myself, but I find that when I look at life this way, there are very few things that are actually worth stressing about, and even fewer that I can actually control. I recently went through a pretty extensive home renovation. If you haven't seen it, I actually documented it in a playlist, which I will link to up here and down there as well. But renovating is a very stressful thing to live through. First of all, there was like the packing up all my belongings and storing everything away, having to live through all the construction chaos, having to pick out all of the finishings and fixtures, and then having to hand control over to a bunch of contractors to be working in my home when I wasn't even here. I was away at work, just hoping that they weren't trashing things and that they were doing everything right. And it's stressful. I'd be lying if I said that it wasn't, but I kept reminding myself that just in a few short weeks, it would all be over and done, and everybody would be out of my house, the mess would be gone, and I'd be back to my regular, normal, everyday life. And so being stressed about scheduling all the tradesmen properly, or really whatever else, was kind of pointless, because in a few weeks, no matter what happened, it was gonna be done, and it was gonna be over, and there was gonna be nothing to stress about. I think it's always been seen as a negative to not care about things, the assumption being that you're apathetic, that you're lazy, that you're unmotivated, or maybe that you're just an asshole even. But I don't agree with that at all. I think the ability to not care is a superpower, and it's a superpower that can preserve your sanity and allow you to focus on the things that actually matter. And I truly don't think I would have ever come to this conclusion without minimalism. But of course, as always, this is just my 2 cents. This is just the world according to Nicole, and I would love to hear your perspective. So let's start a conversation down in the comments section. Tell me about how you determine what's worth stressing about and what's not, what's worth caring about and what's not. Do you have a way to overcome stress when you're experiencing it? If you enjoyed this video at all, if you found it at all valuable or helpful or even just entertaining, please go ahead and hit that like button. Feel free to subscribe if you haven't done so yet. I make videos about minimalism, personal finance, investing, frugal living, simple living, all that fun stuff, so subscribe so you can catch all my future videos. Feel free to follow me on Instagram at according_to_Nicole. Other than that, thank you guys so much as always for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I will see you next week.